Hey folks, this is John from Optics EQ. It's October the 15th, race of the day. It's going to be Santa Anita Race 5. And people ask us sometimes, why do we pick certain races? We got so many big races on Saturday. Why are you picking this race? Well, really our objective is A, to help demonstrate our products, and we try to pick the races that best do that. And then secondly, to find races where we think the favorite's going to be vulnerable, so there might be some betting opportunity for you. And so we don't try to get bogged down into, hey, it's a great race and, it's just very popular. It just may not fit our criteria, so we'll skip it. Now, that's not to say we're not fans too, and we love to see those big races. But again, this game's about trying to win, and we try to put ourselves in the best position. So anyway, I just want to kind of just review why we do the race of the day. What's our objective? What's our process? So what we're trying to do is answer three basic handicapping questions. One, what is each horse's capability? And you've seen in the past, the things that we use to help us do that are our optics figs and our optics notes performance grades. And those are the things we try to get understanding of where the horse fits. Where does he perform his best in terms of figures and notes, and gives us an assessment or a baseline for each of the horses. But then secondly, what we want to do is, will the horse perform up to or exceed their capability today? We're trying to get underneath form cycle there. And that's where we use optics notes, keywords, projections, our handicapping notes, and extended comments. We're trying to understand, is this horse ready for today? Is he suitable to the conditions? What does the information tell us about maybe the horse's current form? Is he improving, regressing? And a little bit about what the trainer's intentions are. Finally, are the pace dynamics of the race favorable to this horse's running style? And that's where we use optics plot. Now, we're not to say that we start, at the top and go to the bottom. We may start in the middle. We may start at the end. Today, we're going to start at the end with optics plot, because what we're trying to do is look for where there might be an edge. But we also want to make sure, even though we think we might have an edge in the plot where there might be a favorable pace scenario for a long shot or unfavorable for a favorite, we still want to answer the other two questions. So we always try to answer the questions. The tools, the approach may change, but that's our kind of framework for trying to understand and handicap races. So hopefully that's helpful and kind of just giving you some framework in terms of what we're trying to do. Okay, so Santa Anita Race 5, we started with the plot, okay? And so folks, I know there's, it's a learning curve trying to understand the plot, but it's really that difficult. It's very simple. So what I want to do is take a look at the first call map. And what that is, you see the shading of the orange, kind of orange color, and then in the middle there's a different shading of like a bluish and then a purplish. That really basically tells you that's the first call. So the front all the way to the left of the horses shaded in that orange. You'll see the 5 on top, the 2 and the 6. Those are the horses based on their past performance and us mapping it, to this quadrant. That's where they want to kind of sit. That's what they potentially can sit relative to one another. So if you look at that, the first thing you kind of notice is the 5 has an edge over the 2 and the 6, and the 6 is really kind of compromised because that 6, when you get to the second call, and we'll show you to the right when you get to the second call, that horse is really kind of compromised because he's going to be behind, and early pressers or early pace types horses, it's hard for them to recover. They're not going to pass horses. So, again, the first part of this is the 6 looks disadvantaged from the early pace. When we get to the second call to the right, you start seeing that, maybe the 5 retains his advantage, but the 7 and the 1 look like horses that could sit and maybe close noted by their squares. The 3 and the 4, the 3 is the favorite in this race, one of the favorites. And you see he's got a circle there. So he's going to be at a disadvantage to the 1 and 7 based on that. And if you look at the 4, he's a very deep closer. Even though he has a square, he has a smaller square than the 1 and 7, and he's a very deep closer. So just looking at this plot got us interested. Again, this plot fit our criteria when we do our scan. We've talked about this in other race of days and other webinars. So go back and look at that. But we used our scan utility to find this particular plot. And after we found it, we looked in and we found the 3 and the 4 that might be vulnerable just from a pace perspective. So let's dig a little bit more closely into their PPs. Let's look at the 3. He ran one big race, 2 races. That's probably back at Del Mar, and it looks like he's third off a layoff, and a lot of people may say, wow, he looks like he may be prime. We're not so sure. That race, that 90 he ran, was a little tainted. We do this thing called a key race kind of method, and we just found that horses coming back kind of ran a lot slower than that coming back. So we're thinking that 90 may be inflated. He came back and ran an 81. It looks like he ran it at a much higher level. He didn't. These are 3 rolls. It was at LoSal. So take that with a grain of salt. So really his figure coming into here is an 81. Based on the pace scenario, do we think he's going to improve? Not really. Again, if he's going to be one of the heavily backed horses, we might want to take a shot against. The 4 is the other, and they're both Peter Miller horses. They normally take money in California. This horse is coming out of routes. And the problem with that is that this horse hasn't been showing speed on the turf going long. Now, the cutback may be just what was ordered, but, we're just thinking, again, you remember his plot. He's going to be very deep closer. Again, at 5-2, the early morning line favorite, we're going to take a shot against. Now, if the odds change dramatically, we may want to reevaluate, but if these 2 horses are first and second in the betting, we want to look elsewhere, okay? And we looked at the plot, and again, the plot showed us. Let me just move on here, and let's evaluate some of the other contenders first. Look at the 1. He's kind of moving up, but again, these are 3-year-olds. He looks like he's on an improving form. He ran well. He won last time. He ran a B- in starter allowance. He ran an 89. That was a legitimate number. Even if he just stays the same or regresses a little bit, he's a contender in here. The 2, we just didn't like the last race, even though he ran well to start his career. A race like that, maybe he can bounce back. It's been 40 days. We're just going to take a pass on him for now. The 7, again, he was the other horse that looked good in the plot. Nothing wrong with him. He ran a B at the optional level. It was at LoSal. He's been given a little bit of time, 35 days. I like the spacing in the races. He may be a little bit of a plotter, but he may just be in a good spot, right behind the 5, coming for home. And then the 8, he was intriguing because when you first look at him, he's coming out of a maiden special weight and say, oh my goodness, how could a horse face winners when he hasn't even broken his maiden? But he's coming out of some good maiden races. The problem, though, he's been laid off. And, that's what we popped up there. That's his workout information, because I thought he might be sneaky until I saw that our clockers there gave him, and this is Optics Works, gave him a give. So they're saying he needs a race. So we're going to kind of we'll wait, we'll see with him. But I thought he was kind of intriguing. But so just kind of looking at this, it looks like the 1 and the 7 are going to probably get the trip. The 5, if he can shake loose, he's been running against better. We didn't get a lot into his PPs, but he's been running against some nice horses. And then, earlier in his career, and, he just may get the right pace scenario here if he shakes loose. So 1-7-5 for us here. And we're going to try to beat the Miller horses. Again, watch the board. If the betting changes, then you take appropriate action. Thanks. This is John from Optics again. Any questions, any comments, anything you want to talk about in terms of these video races days, send us an email at customer@opticseq.com, and thanks for listening.